Weekday evenings from 7.
Janice Long on BBC Radio Wales.
Pet Shop Boys and Always on My Mind. And you can catch up with Chris and my interview with them in just a moment. Just reading this review in the NME actually, which says Hotspot, astutely observed social commentary in the form of absolute mega bangers. All right, the first track I'm going to play from it is Dreamland.
Everyone to stay. You got
So on Friday, Hotspot, the new album of the Pet Shop Boys, was released and to great reviews, fantastic reviews, and rightly so. Welcome, Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant. How are you?
Very good. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you as well. Got your shades on, Chris?
I've got them in my pocket. Do you want them on?
No, it's all right. I just envisage you. I know Neil couldn't wear his hat because he'd have to put the headphones over, but I always see you with your shades on. So, did you spend a lot of time in Berlin doing this?
Well, we've had an apartment in Berlin. We bought for 10 years. We bought it about 10 years ago, and we put a little studio right in the middle of it. And for the last 10 years, we've gone to Berlin to write, really, and make demos. And, we've made 3 albums now with Stuart Price. This is the third one. And we thought maybe it would be sort of our Berlin album. So we normally would go and work with Stuart in LA, but he flew over to Berlin, and we worked in the famous Hansa Studios, where David Bowie, Nicky Pop, etc. used to record. And so, I think we're calling this our Berlin album.
Well, how did you come up with Hotspot then?
Because Berlin...
There's a name.
Berlin was the hotspot of the Cold War.
Oh, of course. Didn't think.
It's a bit, out there, but we were trying to think of a German word that works in English, like kindergarten or Zeitgeist. But we couldn't, and we nearly called the album Von Pet Shop Boys, but I'm sort of regretting we didn't really. But anyway, we ended up with Hotspot. And also Hotspot sounds like a Wi-Fi thing, and also it's what you used to call a sort of up-and-coming club in New York thing. So it kind of works at different levels.
And of course in Berlin, I mean, what a wonderful place. I've only ever been once, and we went for a week, and we went to, what's that club called? Bergen.
You went to Berghain?
Not on the night. It was a gig.
Oh, okay.
And it was really weird because we had our daughter and son with us, and daughter sitting on the swing, and we were going, this is really strange.
Yes.
But we went to see Ghost Poet, and I just love it. And I want to go in the summer because we went midwinter, but I'd love to see it in the summer, the parks and what have you.
Berlin is a great summer city. In fact, the second track on our album, You Are the One, is actually really pretty much about Berlin in the summer and going out to the lakes and swimming and just being in the woods and then coming back into the middle of the city and having fun.
Just such a fantastic place and steeped in history.
It is,
you could never get bored there, could you? So I just played Dreamland from the album where you worked with Ollie for years and years. How did that come about? You simply wanted him to do it, didn't you?
What happened was his record company, Polydor Records, their record company, our manager was having a meeting with them. Out of that came the idea that Pet Shop Boys and Years and Years to make a good combination. And so Ollie came to our studio and we wrote it with him. And originally it was planned to be on Years and Years' album, but then it didn't fit with their musical style. So we said, well, can we have it? And Ollie was really happy to do that. And the song came about because we sat down at a cup of coffee with Ollie, and he'd just been to Dreamland in Margate, which is a sort of fun fair place, amusement park, and I'd never heard of it, and I said, that's a great title for a song, Dreamland, and then the lyrics kind of this is written 2 years ago, are kind of about the refugee crisis, really, about someone in a war-torn country wishing they lived somewhere peaceful, and that's the dreamland that they're dreaming of.
It's quite interesting that you say that, because you're not overtly political, but you do allude to things, don't you? And you instigate thought. Yes,
we don't really write direct sort of stand down Margaret, political songs. We did an EP last year called Agenda, which had 4 songs, mostly satirical. One called Give Stupidity a Chance, and one called What Are We Going to Do About the Rich? And they were sort of funny, but with a sort of serious undertow. But on our albums, I think we don't really want to give political manifestos. But there are, of course, political issues. Like the last track, the album's called Wedding in Berlin, and it's a very straightforward song which keeps quoting the Wedding March by Mendelssohn, and it just says it doesn't matter if you're straight or gay. It's a sort of celebration of the equality of marriage now, really.
What about where you... Well, it sounds to me as though you're referring to Brexit. Where you imagine the world where you don't need a visa.
Yes, that's a fair enough point. Actually, I hadn't totally thought of it like that. But yes, no, you're right. It probably is. Actually, we wrote it 2 years ago. Sometimes you forget what you thought of, when you wrote something. It's true, yeah. People forget that we didn't have passports in this country, I think it's true to say, until the First World War.
Yes.
It was possible. I know in the modern world it's not possible, but I still think you could dream about that, though, where you don't have to. Years ago, at the end of the New Labour government, they were trying to bring in ID cards, and I was used to say, I think it's up to the government to prove who they are, not for us to prove who we are to the government.
And do you remember you used to be able to go to the post office and get a passport for a tenner or something? And now it's that really long process where you have to queue up for hours. And I mean, if you wanted to go somewhere quickly and you hadn't got a passport, you could literally go and get one.
I mean, actually, I'm not sure about this because, funnily enough, my mum's passport is about to run out, and you can do it online. You can even take the photograph on your phone, upload it, and then just click the button. It's actually quite quick.
Can you stipulate that you want to keep a red one?
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't think you can choose the colour.
You can even make a political statement with the colour of your passport, of course, yeah. Actually, I need a new passport.
Do you?
Yes, mine's right.
Well, just go online. It's great.
I will do that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I didn't realise you could do that.
Well, we're learning such a lot in this interview.
It's fantastic. And you, Neil, as a journalist and a writer, your lyrics, they're like a conversation, aren't they?
Yes, I try to make them have the sort of things people might actually say in real life and make them quite conversational. I mean, they do veer to something a bit poetical sometimes, but a lot of what I write is, or probably even most of what I write, is based on things I've heard or read about or seen. And it's the whole idea of the Pet Shop Boys right from the word go was putting sort of real life against beautiful music. That was or dance music or dance music that's beautiful, and that's probably still is the ethos behind what we do.
Okay, we'll take a break for some more music, and this is Burning the Heather, Pet Shop Boys.
Just the singer of the song in my mind's eye. If I thought what you think, I wouldn't even be here. I've just dropped in for a drink before I disappear. You've got me all wrong. There's no one I'm missing. I'm quite happy to be alone. There are no lips I'm kissing. The truth must be the truth, unvarnished in its telling. Otherwise it's just hype you hope. People won't notice you're peddling. Autumn is here and they're burning the heather. Sheepdogs are running hell for leather. Seasons are changing, time's moving along. Give me a drink and I'll be gone. Where did I come from? Where do I go? Time is so heartless. You don't wanna know. I set out in the dark, waking from a nightmare, hoping I could find the middle of nowhere. I'm a stranger in this town, but that's as far as it goes. And where I am bound, no one knows. Autumn is here, and they're me along. That's what I'm sensing. I'm not one of those breadheads, always pounds, shillings and pensing. There's a few things I need, but I've money for paying. And if you've enough room, I'll consider staying.
You didn't say get-go.
Hey?
From the get-go.
Neil could have said get-go there. He missed a trick.
I don't say from the get-go.
So Burning the Heather, Pet Shop Boys. What a gorgeous guitar on that track.
Mr. Bernard Butler.
I love him.
He is a lovely person and a very, very talented musician. And, you know, he teaches songwriting.
Does he?
Yes, he does. He
Can he
told
teach
us.
songwriting?
Well, what's it he does?
Well, he was sort of... Well, actually, I said, how do you write hit song then? And he sort of talks you through the Ed Sheeran method.
But he gives a
Right.
course in this or something, doesn't he?
Yeah. I can't
we-
remember what it was now.
We felt like
unfortunately.
joining the course, actually. To see.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Tom Robinson used to do a course
Did
on
he?
how to write songs as well. And I think he also taught people how to sing. And I said, but if you're tone deaf, you can't sing. He said, anybody can sing.
They can, it's just they wouldn't necessarily be singing in tune, but they'd still be singing. But maybe there may be people, I think when people are tone deaf, they haven't really thought about what they're singing. And if they think about it, they probably can sing in tune.
Hmm.
Who knows?
I know lots of people who can't, though.
Yes.
I remember sitting with you, actually, on, what was it called? Not Round Table, but the Singled Out.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I remember I played a record by the BMX Bandits, and you went, well, he can't sing, he's out of tune. And I remember you and I having a little altercation about that one.
Was that me?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, was I right or was I wrong?
I'm saying nothing. I'm on the fence.
I think you need to dig out, I think tomorrow's programme you have to dig out that record.
I'm so happy it's called I'm so happy E102
Oh, okay.
by the BMX Bandits. You have that knack of reflecting the times, and a prime example, actually, I think of another band, Specials, 1981, Toxteth Riots, Ghost Town, and they appeared at the Royal Court, and you know all of this stuff was going on.
Amazing record.
It's brilliant.
I think really one of the... That's a great example of a political song because it's about an issue, social and political issue, but it's done through artistry and music. It's not bashing you over the head with the idea. And of course, it's so moody, and of course, the brilliant video. It's absolute perfection, that record, really.
It really is, and it suited the sound of the time when you heard the sirens and you know, everything that was going off.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable. But you do that, don't you? You reflect the times, I think, or you reflect an era.
Well, that's what inspires me writing lyrics is what's happening around me, and that can be politics or private or anything, you know, but it's... But if you were to listen to our records one after the other, you would also, you know, so starting in the mid-'80s, they are a sort of social history of the times as well, you know, that reflect...
West End Girls is a prime example, isn't it?
Yeah, well, West End Girls is London, you know, in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Shopping on the next album is about privatisation, Thatcherism, and you get I'm With Stupid in the mid-noughties about Blair and Bush, and...
With Chris doing a lot of the vocals there.
And what?
Didn't you do a lot of the vocals on I'm With Stupid?
No.
No.
No. That's it. No.
Getting muddled up.
Well, not that I'm aware of, anyway.
Yes.
But there's another one that springs to mind of yours. What have I done to deserve this with Dusty? You always wanted a lover. I only wanted a job. And I'm assuming that's about greed.
Well, yes and no. It was written in 1984. So this is when we had 3 million unemployed.
Yeah.
This is
Youth training schemes.
Youth training schemes. So I write, you always want a lover, I only wanted a job. So it's about it's not about unemployment, it's written against the context of mass unemployment.
And,
Actually, you're the first person that's ever commented that has got a political issue in it. But it's true, it has.
Did you keep in touch with Dusty until she died?
We did. I wrote to her not long before she died. We didn't. The fact of the matter is, we didn't really. She died in 1999, and we didn't really see her from about 1992 onwards. But occasionally we used to communicate. And not long before she died, I wrote her a letter. And I wrote her a letter. She was on Jules Holland. It was actually her last TV appearance, and she sang this song with Alison Moyet and Sinead O'Connor. And it was really great, and I sent her a letter saying how good it was, and she wrote about this lovely note. And we were always worried that with Dusty, it was so famous. It was Dusty and the Pet Shop Boys that she felt somehow sort of restricted by it. But her manager, Vicky Wickham, has told me that she didn't think that at all. And I think we were always a bit worried. We always thought we should probably back off a bit and let her do her own thing. But it's something we're very, very proud of, that we went through that with Dusty, and you know, her career came back on the back of those records. And also musically really thrilled. You know, one of my favourite records we ever made is the song from the film Scandal, Nothing Has Been Proved. Yes. And there's this TV series now.
Have you been watching it?
I have, and every night I keep thinking of, you know, there's a whole court scene, and it's, what happens is actually in our song as well, because it's the whole story of the Profumo affair in 4 verses or something. And that was a very proud moment making that record, because it's a really beautiful track, and Dusty sings it amazingly.
I went to see Dusty round the corner from you, Chris.
Really? Where was that? Blackpool?
Yeah. I won a talent competition, and I met Ken Dodd, and he gave me tickets to bring my mum and dad to the theatre. I was about 11, and Dusty was supporting Ken Dodd at is it the Opera House or whatever it's called?
Well, that's amazing, because I would have been very aware of Ken Dodd's name above the Opera House because the summer season. Wow, how amazing! I never saw Dusty perform live, apart from in the studio when she was with us. But even then, she didn't really perform.
No, it was a slow process. A word at a time.
Yeah, so even then we didn't.
No,
really.
I never saw Dusty. No, I never saw her either. No.
I saw her on the original round table, and I was sandwiched between her and Morrissey, and they didn't get on at all.
Oh. Well, you see, Morrissey was Sandy Shaw. When I once had dinner with Morrissey, we had a little bit where he was talking about Sandy, about how Sandy had more number ones than Dusty. It was very Morrissey. And I said, yeah, but Dusty was big in America. It got quite competitive, actually, about our 60s divas.
Really?
Yes.
I'm on the Dusty side, I think.
Although, funnily enough, I've got to do something for Stuart McConey on Radio 6 Music, as we like to call it. And the first, you got to choose 3 records. The first thing's got to be the first record you ever bought. And the first record I ever bought when I was 9 years old was by Sandy Shaw. And it was called
Which one?
Girl Don't Come.
Girl Don't Come.
It's a very beautiful. You know what? I still like it. It's got a moody trumpet introduction. I think it's a beautiful record.
It's a great track. I actually featured on one of her albums, Sandy Shaw.
What,
playing castanets.
The Smiths era one.
Yeah, Stephen Street produced it, and he asked me to go and play. He said, "Sandy wants you to play castanets." I said, "I can't play castanets."
Oh, anyone can play
castanets.
castanets.
Clack, clack, clack.
And was Johnny Marr on it? No.
Well, he wasn't there when I went in.
He wasn't. Maybe she'd moved. Yeah, maybe he just did those 2 records. Yeah.
Okay, lead me to the dance floor. This is Monkey Business. Monkey Business from the Pet Shop Boys from the album Hotspot, which came out on last Friday. I've got Chris Lowe with me and Neil Tennant. That is so disco and hedonistic.
That's the idea. Yeah, it came about because we were in Austin, Texas, doing a gig, and we were walking back to the hotel after having some lunch, and a man approached us in the street, and he said, "Are you guys the Pet Shop Boys?" and I said, "Yeah." I was amazed he recognised us, and he wanted to know what we were doing. I said, "We're playing a gig," and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Me, I'm here on Monkey Business, just playing around." And he was wearing a suit and a cowboy hat, and I immediately thought, "Wow, that's a great lyric."
Sounds like something out of Pose.
Out of
Have you watched
Pose.
that?
No, well,
Yeah.
I'm making him sound a bit gay. Actually, he looked extremely heterosexual.
Did he?
If you
Just
can look
sounds
extremely
real
heterosexual.
Stylish.
Yeah, no, he was a bit of a businessman cowboy type.
Now, you've sold well over 1 million records worldwide, which is amazing. How do you stay on top and be the most successful duo ever?
Chris, how do you do that?
I don't
Go on,
know,
Chris.
do I?
Yes, you do.
No, we just do what we do. And if anyone else likes it, it's a bonus.
Yes, exactly.
People used to say that all the time in the 80s. You don't hear them say that anymore, do you?
Although
No.
the funny thing about that cliche is, I mean, you've hung out with a lot of musicians. I think it's like most cliches, it's quite true, really. I think it's great when you have success. It's really exciting. But if that success fades, which it always does no matter who you are, you still want to make music. And we've just, weathered it. and we've carried on making records because we love writing songs and making records. And it's so much fun and so satisfying and so interesting trying to come up with something different. It's sort of a bit addictive, really, probably. And I think we're lucky that we sort of have some sort of interest in contemporary pop or contemporary dance music. And so one's influences aren't just in the past or something. They're also something you might just have heard on the radio coming into the studio or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's balancing all those things, really. But also, I think it's having an individual sound and an individual voice, because people, no matter what we do, people say, "Oh yeah, typical Pet Shop Boys." And I guess we've got to the stage where there's a sort of timelessness about Pet Shop Boys music.
And instantly recognisable, because as you say, you make your sound. And Paul, I was playing the album, he just came in and he went, "Wow, Pet Shop Boys, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "It's fantastic." He'd been listening in the other room. But it is, you just know it's the Pet Shop Boys. There was a moment when you thought about splitting up, wasn't there?
Yes, in 1999, we were touring the UK, and our promoter Harvey Goldsmith went bankrupt, and so we didn't get any of the money, but we kept on, and the dates were playing a very ambitious arena tour, and the dates weren't, not all of them anyway, were selling that well, and we were playing a Sheffield arena, and it was like 2/3 empty, and we had an interval in the show, and in the middle of the show, we went off to get changed for the second half, and Chris said, "Oh, I can't bear this. It's just terrible." And I said, "Oh, maybe we should knock it on the head." And but then Chris didn't answer that. We went back on stage and we're still here.
Thank God. Thank God. And you're huge in America, aren't you?
Well, not huge, but we've got I know that we have a very interesting statistic, which is that in the Billboard Dance Chart, which has been running since the mid-70s, we are the most successful male artists and the most successful male duo and group, more successful than Michael Jackson and or the Bee Gees. And the top 4 are all women, like Madonna, Janet Jackson, Mariah. Beyonce, thank you very much. And then number 5, straight at number 5, is the Pets from the UK. and it's, I don't know, it's sort of quite nice, isn't it? And so when we in the United States, we have a sort of a dance audience, a gay audience, and an electronic music audience, and it's loyal, and it's interesting. It's different from the UK, actually, the audience there. But it's great. It's amazing to have it. And of course, we also have an 80s audience because we had a string of hits in the 80s. West End Girls is #1 and Dusty's...
It came out twice, didn't it, West End Girls?
Came out twice, yeah, everywhere. And the second one was
You
the
told me
hits.
off for not playing it the second time.
Did I? Good for me.
You played it the first time. Why aren't you playing it now?
Yeah, that's true. You did. You did play the first version. You did. And David Kidd Jensen did.
Kid Jensen, gosh.
Yes.
It's going back.
Yes.
You work with all of these amazing people. We mentioned Dusty, Lisa, or is it Liza Minnelli?
Liza with a Z, yes.
Liza
Not Lisa
with
with an S, yes.
Bruce Weber, Harold Faltermeyer, Trevor Horn, Derek Jarman, Rufus Wainwright, Francis Barber, who I love, and Bowie.
And Bowie. That's a pretty amazing one, isn't it?
Well, I was there at Elstree when you did the Top of the Pops. I wasn't presenting Top of the Pops, but my son had wanted to go. He was about 10. So I took him and his friend, Holly, and you were on, and I was delighted.
Oh, it was very
Gina
exciting.
G, Tina Turner, Take That. It all just came back to me this morning.
Wow.
No, that was fun doing
But you were the class act.
that. I remember there was a bit where, they used to have cheerleaders on Top of the Pops.
Yes.
So David sings the first verse and chorus, and then I sing the second verse and chorus. Well, as I started to sing, the cheerleaders got everyone to clap. Well, they hadn't clapped for David. And he gave me this look. And I thought,
Withering.
I thought, oh, God, I'm in trouble now. Anyway, didn't say anything. We had a lot of fun that day, actually. In fact, we got our pictures taken with David Bowie and we're all laughing. Then we got our pictures taken with Tina Turner, who'd also just written a song for. I remember that Top of the Pops. And Take That. I introduced David Bowie to Take That.
Wow. And I remember Fred's friend Holly said to David Bowie, my mum fancies you. And David thought I was Holly's mum. And I was going, no, I don't. Well, I think, oh, gosh, this is getting awful. Very, very awkward.
He had a great sense of humour, David Bowie.
It's lovely.
He would have liked that anyway. No, it was really fun. We did the record in the studio, and he was really, really funny.
You met in a shop, we know that, and you started with a monophonic keyboard. Do you still have it? Who owns it?
I think Neil gave it to the Hard Rock in LA. Is that right?
Oh, did you?
Yeah, the Hard Rock have a collection of music memorabilia.
Should get it back.
And someone we know went to the Hard Rock in LA and said, your keyboard's not up. And it was a Korg MS-10. Actually, we do have a version of it now, don't we? It's in the basement of our studio. It's not the exact same one, though. But it was good for certain sounds. I didn't realise when I bought it was only monophonic. I played one note at a time. I didn't realise it didn't have a speaker in it because I thought I'd just plug it in. Sound would come out, and I got it. I plugged it in. There's nothing. I thought, oh God! And so the reason I was in the legendary electrical shop was because they made me a lead to plug it into my stereo system.
I love everybody's stories about their instruments because Gary Newman's the same. He just saw this thing, wanted it, but didn't know what it did, or how it worked, or where the noise would come from. And but
Gary Newman also had a upright piano, and the sustain pedal was broken, so it was always on. So he liked drones. He got to like drones, and that was one of the bases of his music.
That's interesting. You've done so much. Any more theatre work coming up?
Well, we have the show. We've written a show for Francis Barber called Music with a K, which is German.
Yeah.
That was in the Edinburgh Festival last year and is coming to London week after next, February the 5th, I think it starts.
I love her. I think she's a great actress.
She is. It is like working with Judi Dench or someone. She is the most amazing actor. And also, and in the show, she plays this singer that originally came from a musical Close to Heaven called Billy Triggs, and she sort of talks about her life and how she grew up in Berlin, and she went to New York, met Andy Warhol, and then she makes a disco record in Munich and a protest record about the Vietnam War, and we have to write all these songs to fit in with those different eras, and so it was a lot of fun. But we recorded them all with her before we started rehearsing. And she looked at she took the part of each of those like an actor. So this disco song that's been made in 1978. She said, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean. You mean the young Donna Summer." And so she went back to the studio and she just acts being the young Donna Summer singing.
Wow.
And it was very effective,
I'm going to have to wrap it up, but you are remarkable. Your shows are fantastic. They're proper shows, aren't they? You put your all into it, and it can't be cheap. But
It
long
can't
may
be
you
cheap, no.
continue. Long may
Oscar,
you
tour
continue.
manager.
Long may you continue, and I hope our paths cross again very, very soon, Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant. And I'm going
sure
to
they
play. I hope so. And I'm going to play Hoping for a Miracle.
Lovely.
Is this about Boris?
It's not about Boris, no. No, everyone thinks Oxford's about Boris, but it's not. Yes, actually, it's sort of about Tony Blair, funny enough. That's the Oxford
really?
reference, yeah, the young Tony Blair. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
anyway.
well, I'll listen to that now with different ears. Brilliant, as
Lovely
ever.
to catch up
And
with
I think
you.
my long-lasting memory of you is in that nightclub in the hotel in Manchester.
Oh,
Do you
yes.
remember?
Absolutely.
God.
we were doing a Saturday morning TV show, weren't we, the following
Yeah,
day?
we were.
Got that.
All
That
right.
hotel was rough, though, wasn't it?
That was terrible.
Actually, our tour manager's got a funny story about being in there with Bronski Beat.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's for another day.
That's for another day.
Look after yourselves both.
Thank you
Chris
very
Lowe,
much.
Bye.
Neil
See you
Tennant,
soon.
thank you very much indeed. Hoping for a miracle.
On Waterloo Bridge, you got lost in the fog, performing a crazy monologue about love and luck. And do they coincide?
hoping for a miracle. Pet Shop Boys, don't you just love them? They're so down to earth, really, really nice man, and always enjoy their company and working with them. So yes, Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant, thank you very much indeed. The Pet Shop Boys.